The global biotech industry is worth more than $1.8 trillion, but behind that number is something more powerful: the ability to save lives. And no one understands that better than today's guest, Dr. Peter Kash. Over his 37-year career, Dr. Kash has helped bring 7 FDA-approved drugs to market, including an important pediatric leukemia drug. He's raised billions in biotech capital, co-founded more than a dozen companies, and helped push cancer treatments from idea into execution.
We're living in Periclean times right now in medicine. It's going to be unbelievable.
Peter Kash is chasing cures. He's fighting for kids with brain cancer. He's accelerating AI-driven therapies for glioblastoma, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. And he believes that within 8 years, solid tumor cancers like breast, prostate, and colorectal could have survival rates near 80%, just like today's blood cancers. In a world of politics and profit, Peter is building something deeper: a global alliance of scientists, doctors, and entrepreneurs working together to outsmart disease.
It's amazing when you go to private conferences and consortiums for brain cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer around the world. Everybody's having a beer or a glass of wine, sharing with each other some of the stuff they're working on without giving away the patents and all that. Everyone is helping one another, and it's allowing each one to get closer.
So if you care about medicine, humanity, or what the future could look like, this episode is your wake-up call. Because biotech isn't just about innovation. It's about the mother with ovarian cancer, the child with leukemia, the father battling Parkinson's. Peter, thank you for joining me on this episode of Some Future Day. Dr. Peter Kash, welcome to Some Future Day. It is so great to see you. And finally, I've been wanting to have you on this show for so long, so it's wonderful to have you join me on Some Future Day. Congratulations. I'd be remiss to not mention the fact that you are a new grandfather. How does it feel to be a new grandfather?
Well, first of all, thank you, and it's really great to be on with you. We have such a journey. It's an incredible feeling. Besides my 4 children, I never had the sensation when I held my granddaughter for the first time. It was different than holding your children. So it's an amazing feeling and amazing journey of continuity. And because your show is about the future, I'm really looking forward to seeing how her future is.
Well, Peter, that's really sweet. A lot of people tell me, though, that being a grandparent, the beauty of holding the baby is that you give it back. Is that what you're talking about? The fact that you said, okay, my daughter is going to get this baby back in an hour, and I'm going with my wife, and we're getting out to dinner, and we don't have to deal with diapers and all of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't let the baby go, to be honest with you. I mean, thank God she has great parents, and my daughter-in-law is amazing. She's a hero. Um, and my in-laws are very helpful. And my son's father-in-law is a medical doctor. My daughter-in-law is a nurse. So we have all this expertise, but it's all about love. That's what it's all about. It's all about love.
That's really beautiful, Peter. All kidding aside, congratulations
Thank you.
again to you
Thank
and
you.
your family. I only wish you the best. It's interesting that you're talking about a few people with medical backgrounds, because your almost 40-year career has been, super impressive and high impact within the world of medicine. You've shepherded numerous oncology programs from ideation all the way through commercialization. It's hard for people to understand, though, what somebody like you does for a living. Could you take a minute and just uh,
Yeah.
s- let my audience understand
Yeah.
what your exact role is within
Yeah.
the treatment and drug community,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah. It's simple. I realized I wasn't that smart at 18 years of age as a freshman in college. That's the truth of the matter. I was a
Oh boy.
wannabe. Mark, I'm being serious. It's being. I was a wannabe scientist. Actually, as a teenager, I actually invented an orthopedic knee brace. Got some venture capital behind it and tried to make a go of it as a 17-year-old. And even in business school and grad school, in finance. I did my thesis of the effects of barometric pressure on serotonin and how that affects decision making on Wall Street. So I have a passion for science, but I really didn't have that missing ingredient that allows you to become a medical doctor, a surgeon, or a pure scientist. But Mark, I realized that you don't have to get the Oscar; you can get a supporting Oscar. And I decided at a very young age that I would support scientists and support doctors. And I was blessed beyond my imagination to get into the right position at the right time. Literally, as you just said, it's going to be, it's 37 years ago, 37 years ago. And from that journey, we have 7 drugs approved at the FDA. If I may, just for a quick second, the reason I got into this industry was in 1968 in Belmore, on Nata Boulevard. There was a young girl. We were playing Ringalivio, like hide and go seek, and we were running, and her wig fell off. She was 6 years old. I'll just mention her first name, Mary, and we were 7 years old. And what do boys and girls do when they see a girl with no hair? We laughed, and a few months later, she died of leukemia. And
Wow.
fast forward, the first drug that I was able to get approved with my partners was a drug called arsenic trioxide. Actually, the first drug approved from China by the US FDA for pediatric leukemia. And that scientist in China became the Minister of Health of China. It's crazy. From 1968, fast forward 35 years, and that was the first drug I got approved for leukemia.
So your primary focus, Peter, has been with regards to cancer, right? It's
Yeah.
really an oncological type of approach here.
Yeah, I mean, we do other things. Our group, the company with my partners at Camelot, BioCapital, we look at everything. We look at autoimmune diseases. We have a drug now for autoimmune disease. We have a pet project in Florida for pediatric mitochondrial genetic disorders, horrific diseases. We're going after one disease called Lee's syndrome. Um, uh, um, uh, uh, you have a lifespan of 3 years. Leber's syndrome, you go blind by age 30. So we're diversified, but oncology is our sweet spot, and we're getting close. We're really, really getting close. I was talking to your producers beforehand. Just a quick statistic, and people could correct me. Uh, if you're a stage 4 leukemia today, you have a 78% chance of survival, stage 4. Not stage 1, not stage 2, stage 4. We're about 8 years away, maybe 10 years, with combination therapy and AI. We will have similar statistics for solid cancers: prostate, breast, ovarian, colorectal, head and neck. We're living in Periclean times right now in medicine. It's going to be unbelievable.
So let's talk for a minute about Camelot Biocapital and artificial intelligence. Obviously AI. We've had a few doctors on this show and people in biotech, and it's very clear to us that AI powered platforms are accelerating target discovery, lead optimization, and patient stratification. And it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Camelot Biocapital embraced computational approaches in its early company formation. So it's interesting that technology was always a big part of it. My question to you is basically, what's your view on AI as it relates to the biggest unmet potential yet? Like, where do you think AI is going to drive these critical parts of innovation in the pharmacy and pharmaceutical and biotech space?
Mark, are you sitting down?
I am.
We are equivalent to caveman just discovering fire. That's where we are with AI. It's
I
going
love
to
it.
be mind-boggling. We cannot fathom the role that AI is going to play in a very healthy way, not in a scary way. For example, with difficult cancers and difficult autoimmune diseases, MS, Parkinson's, diseases such as Alzheimer's, Crohn's, the whole gamut. It's going to take combination therapy. It's not there's no magic drug, there's no magic bullet, which is a great name for a book that they had out. It's going to be combination therapy. The only way for us to harness which drug to use first, which one to use second, which receptor to go after first, which one to go after second, is only with AI. Otherwise, it would take hundreds of man years to figure that out. So I think that AI and ultimately quantum will play not will, is playing a huge role, saving hundreds of millions of dollars and saving years. Not forget about getting into humans, just in the in vivo studies, in the animal studies. So I am extremely bullish in the combination of AI and taking a multitude of drugs combined, combination therapy, that within 7 to 8 years, I believe, in my opinion, that the majority of solid cancers will have similar data like the blood cancers, leukemia, lymphoma, where 78, 80% will have a survival rate with combination therapy. And I think that the three areas that are most exciting for me is, and others have other modalities, is targeted immunotherapy, in combination with traditional today checkpoint inhibitors, cell therapy. Um, I'm going to say mRNA therapeutics, not the ones that were specifically used with respect to COVID. Those three modalities in combination is going to be mind-boggling. And by the way, not just for cancer, for Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and the like. Um, there's a new verticals in mitochondria. There's a company I'm working with now called Cellogy, Cell and Energy, focusing on dysfunctional mitochondria. Whether you're talking about autism or chronic fatigue syndrome (CFS), or type 2 diabetes, or even cancer, mitochondria play a major role in that. And it's all about energy. Remember from basic biology in 10th grade, ATP. So I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I get up. It's better than being Michael Jordan in the morning. If Michael's watching the show, I defer to him, but still, it's better than being Michael Jordan in the morning.
So, Peter, it's incredible. So you have all of these different emerging, essentially what you're talking about is like emerging modalities that your companies are going to leverage for these new discoveries. But then if it seems like we're in like this explosive moment, there's going to be tremendous amount of innovation, growth, and discovery to help humankind, right, across the planet. But from your perspective as a chairman, as a chief executive officer, who's, right now managing, you've created billions of dollars in value, but you're also overseeing, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. In fact, I know that we've had guests on the show that said sometimes it takes even like $1 billion for big pharma to create a
Sure.
drug. What's your criteria then? How are you going to sift through and prioritize, what your goals should be? How do you figure that out?
Well, you're asking all the right questions, and I don't want to forget something. Uh, so I've had many mentors in my life over a 40-year career. You have a lot of mentors, and one of my mentors, and actually a colleague, his name is Dr. Esteban Pombo Villa. He's from Colombia and now lives in Switzerland for the last 30 plus years. Brilliant neurologist, and we were once in a meeting, and I remember the investor said, "So show me your competition." And Esteban, being a PhD in neurology, said, "Sir, we don't have competition." And the investor got a little bit upset. He goes, "What do you mean everybody has competitors?" He goes, "Sir, I look to everybody as collaborators. And that's what I love about our industry. When you put scientists in a room together without lawyers, they get to share." That was a joke. They get to share
Well,
information.
my background is law, so I don't take kindly to that. I mean, come on, Peter.
It's amazing when you go to conferences, private conferences and consortiums for brain cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer around the world. uh, Everybody's having a beer or a glass of wine, sharing with each other some of the stuff they're working on without giving away the patents and all that.
Sure.
Everyone's helping one another. It's the most incredible industry. Everyone is helping one another, and it's allowing each one to get closer. And now, more specifically to your question, um, thank God I have people that work with me that are significantly smarter than myself, and our scientific advisors are just as smart, if not more so, than them. And there is a methodology. Some of the things we do, which is standard with all my collaborators out there, not using the word competitors, uh, is looking at peer-reviewed journals. That some of the research they did has been peer-reviewed by some of the major journals: New England Journal of Medicine, The Lancet, Cell, etc. Second is the greatest thing America has given the world, in my opinion, besides our culture. I think America is the greatest country in the history of mankind. Is Richard Nixon created the war on cancer, and with the NIH and NCI, plus or minus 40 billion a year is given in research grants,
Oh, wow.
and you get it's amazing. That's why we have more or less a monopoly, and hopefully we can continue with that in this space. So I look
We
for
meaning
people with
America. America.
yeah. Oh, America, United States of America. 95% of all the major discoveries, 90 plus percent come from America. It's in our culture. It's in our DNA. No pun intended. I just thought of that one. uh, eh, this concept of entrepreneurship. We are the only country in the world. I've been to now 73 countries around the world. Lectured in a lot of them. We're the only country in the world whose culture accepts failure. Think of that for a second. If you have failure in Japan, you're toast. Toast. You have failure in Europe, go try finding a new job. In America, it's a badge of honor. Failure is a badge of honor. You look at the Forbes 400. When I was teaching at Wharton and I taught at Polytechnic and in Japan at Nihon University and at Hebrew University in Israel, I used to tell my students, look at the top 400 people on the four. They all had failure. Every one of them, multitude of failure, and that goes into the field of science and engineering, not just biotech. Entrepreneurs are allowed to fail in America, and get a second shot and even a third shot.
But some of your companies are also overseas, right? Like, I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you're the co-founder of Targ Immune, which is Swiss-based?
Right. So Targian is an incredible company. It's based off a technology of a very famous professor named Professor Alex Levitsky, from Hebrew University. He should have won the Nobel Prize for his work in tyrannase kinases. That's another story. And he was also probably the founding scientist credited for Gleevec, the first billion-dollar drug for Novartis. And we took that technology from Hebrew University and moved it to Basel, which is the epicenter of pharmaceuticals between Novartis and Roche, and had some brilliant scientists. And we recently merged that into a company here in Florida called Oncology, which is four of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. Dr. Catherine Flores, Dr. Dwayne Mitchell, two of the nicest people. A brilliant surgeon, Dr. Elias Sayor. He's a pediatric neurosurgeon with a PhD. And we just brought on recently a CEO, Dr. Edgar Rodriguez. And the compassion they have, no one talks about options and stock options and warrant. The goal is to nail pediatric brain cancer, pediatric GBM, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Everyone is working around the world trying to nail pediatric GBM. And what's fascinating is that pediatric glioblastoma and adult glioblastoma is on the same train track. It's called the EGF receptor, EGF, and ovarian cancer, colorectal cancer, head and neck cancer is along the same receptor. So if you can nail one of those cancers, there's a higher probability that you can go after these other cancers. And it goes back to the genesis of your question before, is the different modalities. These modalities in combination will be able to nail different parts of this receptor to control the cancer and, in my belief, ultimately potentially cure the cancer. If that helps explain a little bit.
Little bit. So, you mentioned glioblastoma, and I'd be remiss to not talk about my close friend who is like a family member to me, Maura Sharon, who passed away recently of glioblastoma. It's a hideous disease, and it looks like there was like no help in sight from a drug perspective. In fact, Maura tried, she tested some new drugs. They allowed for her to test some new drugs, but it was just hideous what she went through, and then ultimately she passed away. I loved that woman dearly. She's a dear friend. Um, so it's, it's complicated. And I guess, when you talk about these, solid tumors versus hematologic cancers, if I'm getting this right, I did a little,
You
like,
are,
I'm
you are.
reading my notes, obviously, I'm studying, and then you
Yeah,
bring
you're
it
doing
back
good.
up to like all of you just like rattled off a lot of cancers that seem to be very prevalent. I don't know if it's because I'm reaching this age in life where people have cancer, or actually cancer is becoming, or these types of cancers are becoming more prevalent. So I'm curious, like from a therapeutic perspective, where do you think the sweet spot ultimately is? Is it targeting solid tumor types of cancers? Is it targeting hematologic cancers? Or do you see something? Are you pointing out with your comments just now a whole different angle to all of this? And that's what Targ Immune and I Oncology are focused on, like a whole different approach.
Right. No, no, there are others with similar approaches, and I hope that they all succeed as well. Um, Really, it's what makes this industry so special. Um, Everyone's pushing each other. Um, uh, it's the idea of taking a cold tumor and making it hot. The best lectures I've ever heard in my life on cancer, it's almost like I don't know, growing up, we both like Star Trek. It's like the Klingon ships cloak themselves and they can't see them. They cloak themselves. That's what
Right.
cancer cells do. They cloak themselves. They try to hide in the most sophisticated ways, uh, with hundreds of millions of years of evolution. And by the way, cancer's been around for thousands of years. The word cancer comes from a Greek word, comes from it was been around thousands of years ago. There was cancer.
Right.
Obviously, people are living longer, and so it's more prevalent, and you're able to diagnose it. And modern science is it's what it's done in the last 100 years is fascinating. But I believe that it's the idea of finding these cloaked Klingon cancer cells, and some of them not even part of the mass. Some of them might be single cells. So God forbid a woman gets breast cancer, and thank God chemotherapy and radiation helps, and then things are great, and then 2 or 3 years later the cancer comes back because a single cell was floating in the circulatory system. It wasn't attached to the mass, it wasn't killed, and it becomes resistant to that type of chemotherapy. So I believe that as we are able to, through diagnosis and through these fascinating therapeutics, several of them, you can uncloak the cancer cells and allow these amazing medical miracles that scientists work on. By the way, Mark, an average of 15 to 20 years to get these drugs approved. From the time of the bench science, an idea
Currently, you're saying currently.
currently it's
Wow.
about 15 to 20 years to get a drug approved from the beginning of the idea. And you are correct. It can cost, on average, 300 million plus, upwards of a billion. But now, because of AI, we're shortening that significantly. So I believe it's the idea of taking these cold tumors, turning them hot, lighting them up like a Christmas tree, and allowing these different modalities to come in and nail this thing and come in. And by the way, not like traditional chemotherapy, where it's very toxic. I'm talking about a much less toxic environment to go after these diseases. And by the way, what's also fascinating now is that it's global. You have Chinese scientists working with American scientists working with scientists in Sweden and Finland. I just came back from Abu Dhabi. The Middle East is blossoming with brilliant scientists and tremendous capital, and this whole global ecosystem is coming together. That I'm very bullish on humanity.
So humankind before government and politics, before policy.
When you have a mother or grandmother, a sister with ovarian cancer, o- o- everything go any barriers go away. You have a child with pediatric GBM or pediatric osteosarcoma, bone cancer. All those barriers go away, and everybody works together.
Peter, staying on the AI track for a minute, is it true that artificial intelligence is almost at the point now? You might not be aware of this, so forgive me, but I got to ask you, like, is it true that AI is now at the point where it will be able to predict cancer cells coming, like cancer cells are on the way?
I when I'm never embarrassed when I don't know something, especially when you're
Yeah, I'm
a
sorry to put that
professor,
out
you
there, but it's
never
I
if a
read this
student asks a
recently and I
question,
was
say, "I'll
yeah,
get back to you on that one." Um, I could tell you that AI right now, um, first of all, you gotta remember with AI, it's not just, mathematicians and computer scientists and physicists and chemists and biologists. Individually, they're all working together today. Um, uh, uh, the best predictor you have today for cancer, because cancer is somewhat genetic, as we all know.
yeah,
It's somewhat environmental, as we all know,
right.
and diagnosis. I could tell you right now. This week, I took a gene mapping test myself. A diagnosis I took just by taking a swab of my buccal mucosal in my cheek to get a gene mapping. So I'm a huge believer that as they're coming out with more and more markers, biological markers, it helps. It does, to answer your question, it does help predict not just the cancer, but Mark, how aggressive that cancer will be. There's a test, I believe it's called the 4K test, and it's a test to determine whether or not your prostate cancer that you may or may not get, but if you do get it, how aggressive it will be.
Wow.
So
That's available now?
everything it's available now.
Wow. Peter, what's the cost on this though? Like when you talk about the gene, you said you took a gene mapping test yourself with just at
Couple hundred, it
home.
cost me well, it was a gift from my wife. It cost $250. That
So
that
anybody
that
could do that?
and anybody.
So is that something you would suggest the audience does?
Oh, yeah, first of all, think about it. In the 1960s, we were putting maps of the United States on our wall, besides Farrah Fawcett and, Tommy Agee, from the New York
I love
Mets.
all these like great 70s references. We're gonna get into Suzanne Summers in a minute.
Oh, 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 forget about it. Growing up in the '60s, '70s, and '80s, for millennials and Gen Z that are out there, those were the best years, the best decades.
Amazing. I agree.
The
I
music
totally
from the
agree.
'80s the music from the '80s, nothing could compare, nothing.
I
So
completely agree. I'm having a big by the way, I'm having a big Michael Jackson moment right now. So
yeah, yeah, love
We
it.
Are the World, nonstop in my head.
Exactly, exactly. And by the way, look what we did collectively with that, with the concept of what was going on in Africa at the time. All these musicians came
Correct.
together, just beautiful. But I lost my train of thought for a second.
Well, I was asking you, like, whether or not the audience should
Oh yeah,
invest
yeah, 100%. Oh yeah,
$250, and if so, why?
forgive
Like,
me,
what's the
forgive me.
how does it
Yeah, yeah.
work?
It, it, it's a no brainer. For a few $100 to have a map of your genes, and it's like it's fascinating. It's
Where do
just
they
from a
go, though? Where do they go to get the where do they go to
you
do
can go
this? Is it
online.
online?
Yeah, these things are online. Uh, I it's not off the top of my head. I'll get back to you on that. The name of the one that I just took, I have it in my kitchen. Uh, but they're common. They're commonalities. By the way, let your doctor know, and your doctor will recommend one as well. Your health
And what
professional
could
will
they
recommend.
discover? Like, for if they do a gene mapping, what could be uncovered?
Well, first of all, you can see if anything is overexpressed. Like, is there um, propensity for this disease, that disease? It doesn't make you necessarily freak out when you like certain. By the way, I just got a full body MRI, a full body body imaging that was recommended just to get a baseline, and that was a few $1,000s, but the idea is to get a baseline. But what I do recommend now, so I don't forget, is that everyone in your audience, in their 40s, they have to go for a colonoscopy. It used to be 49. I think it's a little bit younger now. If there's history of colon cancer, you got to go in your 30s. You're living in Florida, California, Arizona, twice a year, not once a year, to a dermatologist. Otherwise, you got to go a minimum of once a year and get a full body dermatological exam. You have all this diagnosis tools available to you, and it's amazing. I speak to people and they haven't been to doctors for 3, 5, 7 years,
Wow.
just to get a baseline.
So
So that is extremely important.
Peter, I want to talk to you. So it's kind of interesting because politics seems to get in the way of issues that shouldn't be political over and over and over again. So, like, by way of example, I don't think fighting fentanyl deserves a red or a blue jersey, Republican or Democrat. And a theme that keeps coming up is this concept of global collaboration within the science community for the sake of humanity. But then there are certain regulations, different policies from country to country, different levels of patient access models from nation to nation. Do you feel like perhaps the United Nations or some sort of an international group should come together to create some level of uniformity and bypass a local, state level, nation level policy regulatory restrictions that could slow down advances in science?
Well, okay. I've been waiting for this question for a couple of decades. I'm not exaggerating. But wait till you hear my answer. I'm not in politics. I don't not in that field of diplomacy. I'm in biotech diplomacy. That is what I do.
Yes,
So
biotech
I believe that
diplomacy.
in the international arena, whether it's something political, something science, whoever's negotiating, whoever are the negotiators, whether it's from China, Russia, America, wherever, the Middle East, in the room next door, you have a two-way window, and their young children or young grandchildren have to be in that room while they're negotiating. In the room next door, in a two-way mirror, the
I love that.
grandchildren of these people have to them playing with each other, and I will guarantee you that little tool that they can utilize to get to an agreement will happen much faster.
So what's the problem, Peter? Like like on a global scale, which nations are the most restrictive? Which nations are stymieing growth and innovation with regards to, let's say, cancer specifically, because that's your expertise.
I gotta tell you, China's in certain areas in gene editing, in CRISPR, China is in something called ADCs. It's a whole class of unique drugs in cancer. ADCs,
Yeah.
they are with us or ahead of us right now. And I personally believe that if we allowed greater collaboration, greater upside together, my two favorite expressions in business is less is more, less is more. And in business and partnerships, just like in marriage, nothing has to be equal, but everything has to be equitable. And if you I love that line.
Especially with marriage.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, uh, next week is my 35th year. So
Mazel tov.
yeah, thank you, thank you. Uh,
Seriously.
uh, yeah, no, she deserves a Medal of Honor. So,
I know.
is so to answer your question is we do have these international collaborations right now. The problem is in certain countries, you're hesitant to share patents and whatnot for fear of them taking it. But I think if we started a little bit earlier on, at least in this one space of mutual collaboration, scientists, not governments, they don't think like governments. I could tell you when I go to China, I've been there many times. Two of my books are published in China. And when I get there, behind closed doors, everyone's looking for the same thing. How do we help patients? And that's what makes the scientific community so unique. I never go to a meeting and people are talking about their options and their stock equity plans. It's all about science with this group of people.
But let's talk about patents. I mean, it's a funny situation because obviously this show, in particular, I'm very
Mm,
capitalistic and I believe in the United States Patent and Trademark Office's
right.
regulatory scheme. I think it's important for American innovation and for
Mm,
creators. But, it's no surprise. I mean, everybody knows China tends to steal,
mm,
intellectual property
mm,
from U.S.
mm,
Corporations. Now, you're saying they're right there with us as it relates to creating drug innovation specifically for
mm.
cancer. Do you think it would be fair game for the United States companies if a drug comes out of China and it is going to help an individual in America? Do you think American companies should steal those patents, that IP from China?
Okay. So these are great questions because it puts me on the hot spot, which I like. I love the pressure. So
It's a good
uh,
question
uh,
though, because in the name of humanity, right? It's
Right, right.
on a smaller level. It's like that mother, in a situation where she can't provide for her children, goes into the supermarket and steals,
Right.
formula for her baby. Like that's really what I'm asking you. Is it fair game for United States if, to your point, China's ahead of us with regards to, or equal or ahead of us, and they come out, at the end of the day with a cure to some sort of a cancer, and they
Mhm.
wrap it up with their IP and make it so cost prohibitive that we can't access it, somebody could certainly rip it off and knock it off,
Right,
should we? Is it ethical for America to
right.
retaliate that way?
So the answer to the question is, instead of stealing it, I like the word collaborate with it. I think that if we do things more earlier stage with China, uh, uh, we're all the same. Every human, we're all related to the what was it? The seven sisters of Eve. We all have the same mitochondria. That's why I love the mitochondria space. All of us, everyone on the planet, we're more or less the same. We're all related. Every one of us, cousins, distant cousins. It's fascinating. And I think that we could break down the barriers of China, the way that they're doing business. I think that we could collaborate better. That it doesn't have to get to that stage that we have to steal from them or they have to steal from us. I think that there's so much economics in this, positive economics in capitalistic terms, that there's enough to go around. There's enough to go around for everybody to get a piece of the pie, specifically Tommy's Pizza on Bedford Avenue.
All right, fair enough. So you don't want to answer because you're doing business in China. I'll give you that. But then let's drive down to one of your earlier comments with regards to drug approvals in the United States. I mean, we had a guest on here that is an expert with regards to rare and underserved diseases, and she argued that the FDA's procedures, their processes are overly onerous right now, and
They are.
as a result, we're putting American individuals with rare diseases, underserved diseases. That's not the case with cancer. Cancer is ubiquitous now. We're
Right.
putting them at a disadvantage. So bring it down to America. Is our government system antiquated?
Yeah.
Should the Trump administration do something right now to speed up the process of approval?
Right. Well, the first thing I know that President Trump is very interested in nailing cancer. He has a deep interest in that. I had the honor of in his first administration of meeting President Trump at Mar-a-Lago after a cancer symposium in Palm Beach. It was an incredible moment for me, and he asked specific questions about specific cancers. I was really impressed with his knowledge. So this is number one. Number two is orphan indications. The FDA has a special division for orphan indications. You can actually speed that up. You don't have to do a phase three necessarily. So they got that right. They got that aspect right for orphan indications, especially for pediatric. They speed that along. So the FDA has got that right. What I would love to see is a non-medical or non-direct FDA uh, 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 advisory board to work with the FDA in industry to try to speed up these approval processes. They do take a long time. They're a fortune of money, and I do believe just like everything could be streamlined, but the FDA has been good with respect that we are the gold standard for the world. If something's approved here in America, it's generally approved everywhere. And now the FDA is also allowing phase one and phase two and even phase three studies overseas, which was something that they did not have in the past. So they're becoming significantly more user friendly. I would love to see it speed up a little bit quicker because taking 17 years to go from point A to point B, it's ludicrous. Um, Also, I must add, President Trump, I believe in May of 2018, came out with the Right to Try Act. That
Yes, I remember that.
non it's amazing. Non-approved drugs can be that's experimental can be utilized for the first time. So that why did that take 40 years? I have no idea.
So that's great, especially for patients. The right to try, just to hover on that for a second.
Yeah.
I understand that a lot of women with different types of cancer have been really leveraging that. People that are desperate have been using that right to try act
I
and
lost my
getting
sister-in-law.
access.
Yeah, Mark, I lost
I'm
my
sorry.
sister-in-law 3 years ago to ovarian cancer.
Yeah.
It's a generally an 18-month process of diagnosis to, whatever. Some people, thank God, are longer, and it would have been great if she could have been on, experimental drugs and more easily. Uh, Ovarian cancer is I mean, if you ask me, what do I wanna achieve now, in the second part of my life, at 60, almost 64 years of age, is I wanna nail pediatric GBM. I want to nail ovarian cancer, and the one autoimmune thing I like to focus on is Crohn's disease. And if you can nail Crohn's, you can nail other autoimmune diseases. Those are the three things I personally highlight that I would like to see that I could have some small role in as an achievement.
So
Um,
Peter,
yeah,
just before we get off this idea, like we're hovering over the government a little bit, it's kind of interesting because I like how you're positioning the FDA as the gold standard on an international level. And it's certainly, I feel protected by it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I also like your approach of suggesting a private sector, public sector, uh, collaboration of sorts. And I think President Trump is doing this in other business sectors. I personally went to the White House and participated in the White House Crypto Summit, where President Trump assembled his executive team, his cabinet members, all the best, and then a lot of individuals from the private sector that understood how crypto can impact financial services. In particular, we're seeing this with artificial intelligence too. Has he announced anything? Is there some sort of a formation where the private sector is going to work with the FDA to maybe find solutions to speed up the process of approval to move
right.
America forward? Because there's going to be a lot of advances. Like this is another example where technology is going to push innovation, but our legislation is going to slow down access to these drugs. So, have you heard of anything like this public-private participation?
Not specifically. I'm sure it is done in private meetings and whatnot, but it's a very simple thing. A lot of FDA officials, after they leave the FDA, they go into industry. They become chairmans of companies. They become on the board of directors of companies. Utilize those people. Now that they had the medical, the government, the science experience, and now they're in the capitalistic industry role, let them come back because they already have respect, mutual respect that they were in the FDA, but now they're in industry, and maybe even those people can be part of that advisory board, informing now the current FDA officials because now they're on the other side of the train tracks, if I could use that analogy. But we have to do something to speed up the process.
So the last administration, like Biden was very vocal. I think his son, Beau Biden, passed away of cancer, if I'm correct. And
Specifically brain cancer.
and he was very, very vocal about we're going to cure cancer. We're going to cure cancer. I know people looked at him from a political perspective. Some people on the right thought he was acting crazy, but he did put something together that started to push this public and private
Yeah,
sector participation called the Beau Biden Cancer Moonshot Initiative.
right.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm indirectly involved. Yes.
What is it exactly?
Well, it's going after these moonshots. These, just like a moonshot, just like JFK uh, said, in 10 years we're going to get to the moon, and President Biden had this, belief that we can go after these moonshots for brain cancer and Alzheimer's. And I work with a group of doctors and scientists and business people, high profile industrialists, going after certain moonshots, including diabetes. I mean, diabetes. I lost my mother to diabetes. It was tragic, absolutely
Wow.
tragic in this day of age. Yes, when you can get the president and President Trump has a tremendous influence today, tremendous, where he can form an industry with the FDA advisory group to go after maybe some of these moonshots to speed up the process a little bit. it's amazing what they could accomplish relatively quickly, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be a long bureaucracy per se.
Yeah, it seems like his appointment, this new guy running the FDA, seems like he also has a mindset similar to you, where it's, let's unlock American ingenuity so that we can continue leading as it relates to innovation in the drug in the pharmaceutical sector. It seems like he feels that the FDA needs to stay current as it relates to its procedures and its policies, and realizes that a lot of innovation is coming through new technology like AI. Do you like the new guy that's
Yeah,
been appointed to lead the
the new
FDA?
FDA guy is amazing. It's refreshing. It's great. And I'll add one other thing, Mark, if we get just a small tangent, if that's okay. Um, we have to revamp our education system. My doctorate is in education. And if you look at what South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Finland, Sweden, just to name a few countries, they are blowing the doors off us in high school mathematics, science, physics. We have to uh, uh, ramp up our our education system, that our students are learning AI, they're learning basic physics, they're learning basic chemistry, they're learning things that collectively together our future, because we're in the twilights of our careers and whatnot, that we're able to compete against China and India. India is amazing in the pharmaceutical space, amazing, and we have to be competitive, and the way we do that is through education. And I think that we're not as competitive in the math and sciences in the high school realm.
Well, that's an understatement, in fact. Like, I was looking at some of the statistics recently coming out of Illinois in just math and English, and in the public school, realm specifically, and it's a debacle. I mean, American young students in high school are failing. They don't have the same level of knowledge that our generation did as it relates to, both English and math, and it's just data. You could just look at the data.
Oh,
This isn't like a biased perspective because we're in the same generation. I mean, it's just a fact. So, what do you think caused this deficit in American education?
I'll tell you, Mark. I was involved with Pencil. It's a non for profit in the city where we become a principal of the day for an inner city school, and I was a principal of the day of a elementary school in the Bronx. Even with all the problems they have in the social economic aspect, it was the number one school in America for chess. Their chess team was number one. It's not a function of money. It's a function of rewarding the teachers in a meritocracy, which we don't do here. We spend double to triple that of any student of those 7 countries I just mentioned that are blowing the doors of us. When you look at 10th grade and 12th grade mathematics and science, they're blowing the doors of us, and we're spending double to triple the amount of money than they are. So it has to do with the teaching methodologies. It has to do with the way that we're stimulating our children, home environment. I love the fact of the idea of offering inner city students the ability to go to charter private schools if the public schools are failing. I think that would help out tremendously. I love competition. I have a TED talk on social cap- capitalism, and I love competition. It's healthy in
For sure.
sports and in business and in education.
I think what we're gonna do for those for the audience that is listening, we'll put links to your TED Talk and your 2 books in the notes, on YouTube, so
Thank
they
you.
could just access the links and buy the books and listen to the TED Talk. But just going back to what you're talking about, Linda McMahon she's running the United States Department of Education right now, and she's talking about, basically having the DOE cut at the federal level to put more power. She's not talking about cutting budgets. She's talking about cutting the bureaucracy at the federal level to put more power back into the state, the local level. Do you like that philosophy? Do you think that, for example, me in New York City and my family require a different type of approach to education than someone watching the show in a rural community in the country?
Mark, I don't like the idea. I love the idea. Love it. Because it creates natural competition. If one state is going to put the resources to math and sciences, an AI, so the children have a job in the future, robotics, and another one puts it. I'm not saying you don't have a little bit of both, but the other one emphasizes the arts or whatever, the liberal arts, and you need a combination of both. Then those states will be losing their citizens to the other states that is helping the next generation of their children. And they will have to then improve their educational standards. So I believe if you do get it back to the states, it's economics 101 that each state will have to be competitive in order to keep their population base, in order to raise taxes to pay for all the employees that are there and all the pensions. So I think it's going to be a great solution, a part of the solution to the education problem that we have here. And the students are brilliant. When I was in these inner city schools, they have the same thirst of knowledge as anywhere. And I was teaching at Ivy League schools and around the globe. Our children in America has as great as potential as anywhere else. We just have to give them the tools to get there, in my opinion. And Mark, if I may make one plug, and I apologize so I don't forget, is you mentioned my book. One of my new books. It's called "Take Two Tablets: Medicine from the Bible." It's in Italian, Chinese, English, Hebrew. It just came out last week in Spanish. And what I'm doing with the Spanish book, I went to Spain to do a book signing. 100% of the proceeds, not 99, not 50, 100%. I'm going to every Spanish-speaking country around the world, and we are donating 100% of the proceeds to buy PlayStations for
Oh, wow.
Spanish-speaking children with this book, have Spanish-speaking children that are undergoing chemotherapy for pediatric cancers, whether it be GBM or leukemia, so they could play with each other while getting their chemotherapy treatments. And I'm scheduled to go to Argentina, Panama, Costa Rica, Uruguay. I hope to get to Colombia. It's going to be beautiful. So that is the social impact project for the year.
That's impressive. I love that, Peter. Congratulations with that. So, a question, when we talk about the creation of new drugs costing so much money, I'm curious what you think about this idea. We had a guest recently on the show who's also in the pharmaceutical space, and he feels that he can accelerate innovation and then also get the end product to the consumers in a more affordable way. He was focused on Parkinson specifically, Peter, by partnering with the government on the manufacturing side. So creating a public-private sector moment where essentially, I think the government might have done this, in fact, with the COVID medications, right? Where essentially they're underwriting the cost of a Parkinson's drug so that the research can accelerate, so that the manufacturing costs ultimately decrease, and then it gets into the hands of the end user in a more price efficient way. What's your thought about that idea?
Yeah, so obviously, being in the industry, I don't disagree. The costs are exorbitant because 95+% of drugs fail. People don't understand, why do they charge X amount of dollars. That one drug that got approved, I could tell you that they had dozens, not a dozen, dozens of other drugs that failed somewhere along phase one, phase two, phase three, that billions was put into it. So for the company to survive, the one drug that succeeds, they have to put a premium on these drugs. So this is number one. But I love collaboration, and I think that with efficient government, non-bureaucratic government officials, having such a partnership is a brilliant idea. And by the way, it worked. It worked. Look what Richard Nixon did when he started the war on cancer, and we started getting these huge amounts of funding in the NCI, the National Cancer Institute, and the NIH. Look what we have done in 50 years. It's unbelievable, the advancements we have made in cancer and in other disease states. Now, I believe over the next decade, we're going to doctors are going to be calling into you. We're going to get close to nailing Parkinson's. We'll get close to nailing Alzheimer's like never before. We will get close to nailing Crohn's, MS. I'm extremely excited that if we can figure out a non-bureaucratic government agency to work directly with industry, I do believe that we can cut a lot of these costs. Yes.
Could it have a chilling effect on innovation though? Like it seems to like for me, the scary part is it kind of butts up against socialism and communism. If the government is so involved in the creation of these businesses, will it stymie creativity with regards to R&D for new drugs?
No, if you have some creative government people that say, remember, the government doesn't take any equity. But imagine if the government, and they already have this in certain states, imagine the government coming out with, hey, we just helped you with this drug for all the founders and investors in the company. Uh, 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 Instead of charging you a 20% long term capital gains tax, if you reinvest it, in that state into either a biotech, a new startup, or a tech startup, it's tax free. But you have whatever you're investing in that company. Uh, Imagine our economy will be on steroids, Mark. Imagine if there's an incentive that when you get a big winner, that you recirculate that capital to new startups, and not just necessarily in the biotech space. Spread that out. It'd be insane what it would do to stimulate the economy.
So it's kind of interesting. You're making me think a little bit about the government officials and whether or not they're capable of understanding your world, of understanding medicine, science, and illnesses. I went to a dinner recently in Washington, D.C. with RFK, and Rand Paul was there. And Rand was, as you know, he has a medical background. He's a doctor, and he was very vocal about how important preventative care is as well, how we need to think from the start before people are sick all the way through the end. Do you think the government is thinking the right way? If RFK starts to initiate these preventative measures, unlike a way that we've ever seen before, I think he's taking out red dye out of foods now, and people are like upset about that. He's trying to see whether or not certain vaccines are causing ADHD, and people are upset about that. But do you think this approach, this more holistic approach, starting on the preventative side, is a good place for the government to be poking around?
Mark, you asked a second question that I've been trying to answer for 2 decades. Thank you for a thank you for asking that question.
Can I hit the
Um,
trifecta?
no, and we didn't you didn't tell me what the questions were gonna be beforehand.
No.
This is great. So let me, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Um, Prophylactically, type 2 diabetes, no one needs to be type 2 diabetic in the world today. I stand corrected on the exact statistic. It's either every 30 seconds or every 60 seconds. It doesn't make a difference. There's an amputation somewhere in the world due to type 2 diabetes. Every 30 to 60 seconds. There is no need for that. So 100%, if the government created incentive, imagine this, Mark. Imagine if the government gave an incentive today for everyone that is clinically obese, okay? And we're speaking freely. My mother was very overweight later in her life, and it created an incentive that if your doctor says that you have to get your weight down to X and your cholesterol down to X minus, and you achieve that at the end of the year or the end of 18 months, the government, the government gives you, I'm making this up, but this is an idea. The government gives you 2 free tickets to Hawaii. By the way, that's $3,000. The government will save, I think the highest expenditure for Medicaid is in the last 2 years of someone's life, of suffering from debilitating disease like diabetes or like fatty liver. Uh, uh, and want to imagine if we created an incentive plan for companies and individuals that if they can get down to that weight, to that prophylactic medical baseline, that you create an incentive for them. Literally, here's 2 tickets to Hawaii. Here's 3 tickets to Disney. The government would save 95% of what they're spending by not offering these things prophylactically, and we have to treat them therapeutically somewhere down the line. Mark, you remember in elementary school, we had you had to try to do 10 chin-ups. You had to
I do
climb a
remember.
rope. I don't even think they could do that today. I can't imagine the lawsuits potentially of climbing the rope to the top of the ceiling. I don't know if you
I do
and
remember it. I hated it, actually. The rope
our
was so
hands were
thick, you like
burning.
move your hand. Yeah, yeah, I
Our
remember
hands
it
were all
exactly.
red and burning.
And I have a fear of heights. I hated the whole thing.
Yeah, and you have another 7-year-old holding the rope down there like, "Oh my god."
Correct, correct.
But but we had certain standards, and I
Yeah.
believe that if we got to those prophylactic standards, I'd be all for it. Um, my second book it's called Freedom from Disease, and it's based on insulin resistance. It's based on if you get to that insulin resistant even before type 2, you have a 40% greater chance of breast cancer, double the chance of clinical depression, double the chance of Alzheimer's, 40% greater chance of prostate cancer. So obesity is a horrific disease state, and we could prophylactically prevent that in pediatrics. By the way, by like a little bit like what RFK is doing, and exercise.
Interesting. Peter, one more question and then we're going to let you go. You've given me a tremendous amount of time, but so we're seeing a trend here in Manhattan, sadly, where there might be a block or a neighborhood where a lot of people are diagnosed with the same type of cancer. So, by way of example, down in Gramercy Park, all of a sudden we found, we knew a handful of women that were all diagnosed with glioblastoma right around the same time. Do you think there's a connection between geography somehow and these specific linking geography to a specific type of cancer?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but you know, people much smarter than me that I work with, that are MDs and PhDs, they're both. I mean, they sacrifice 16 years of their life. They say the same thing that there can be, but you got to look at the data. It's got to it can't be subjective. It's got to be objective. But let's face it, we there's evidence that if you live near high wires that transmit, next to power stations, we all know this. There's a higher propensity of cancer with that. If you lived in certain parts of Long Island where they used certain fertilizers back in the 40s and 50s, there's going to be a higher propensity of a different type of cancer. So
Yes.
the answer, unfortunately, unequivocally, is yes. That the geographical location can play. Now, can you bring it down to a street? The answer is scientifically yes, but you have to look at the data, and it's got to be double-blinded data, and that's why I love the standards that America brings to the world. I love our country. We have the most amazing country in the world, and people just slam on it. It's like Winston Churchill said, "Democracy is the worst form of government, but it's better than all the rest." With all our problems, nothing comes close to the United States of America, nothing. And the world would be in dark ages without us. And the world appreciates us. I went to Korea recently, Mark, with my wife and daughter, in South Korea, obviously, and we went to the War Museum there. They honor our flag, the United States flag, in
They
ways
should.
that I don't see here since I've been in the Boy Scouts or Cub
Yeah, they're
Scouts.
cutting the flags down here.
And
Yeah, in Manhattan.
with all our faults, with all our mistakes, nothing comes close to us.
Peter, so I'm flattered that I was able to land two questions that have been on your mind for all of these decades. It means a lot. I don't want to let you go. I just want to give you another opportunity. Is there anything important that comes to mind that we didn't cover that you would like to share with the audience today?
Um, there's so many things I would love to share, but if I had one or two things, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. One thing that I'm learning is that we're talking about all these disease states. The one thing we didn't touch on is mental illness and depression, and it's off the charts in adolescence. It's off the charts. When we were growing up, I don't think we knew about depression. I
Correct.
mean, we were outside. Our parents didn't know where we were. It was
Correct.
riding our bicycle without helmets. It was crazy.
Correct.
Today, I stand corrected on the statistics, so please correct me, or psychologists out there, please forgive me, but I heard that 5% of college freshmen contemplate suicide. It's crazy.
Yeah. In
There's
markets like
no need.
South Korea too, a lot of these like massive celebrities that are in K-pop or K-drama, they become so famous. They have a suicide epidemic too. And I have to tell you that I read recently in the United States, for the first time ever, young women in college, their trajectory of suicide has surpassed that of men. The percentage
Right.
of women that are all of a sudden committing suicide. So I agree with you. I think mental health
The one
and
source,
wellness is a major issue.
the one indicator that I found that is you can't debate for education, for future criminality of your children. The number one indicator that shows that if parents or partners have dinner together with their children, I stand corrected, but that is the number one indicator to determine outcomes. It's crazy. It's that simple. As a family, and I'm a little bit guilty of it also, we're shutting down the iPhones and shutting off the TV and having family events. We're a big board family. We love playing games, whether it be Monopoly or Risk or whatever we're playing. Is having family time, and I really believe it comes down to that. Is how much time are we spending? And so that's one thing I wanted to share is a way of trying to reduce the um, the depression and mental illness and stress that this next generation has, because you are correct, Mark. It's a global issue, and we have to face it. The other thing I would share is, since you're being so kind, is my older son Jared co-produced a movie called Tatami that we had a chance to see the opening of it. And today, actually today, it's national release. Tatami
Wow.
is a story about an Iranian athlete, a female athlete that had to shake hands or fight an Israeli athlete, and it's based on a true story that happened in 2019. And the Iranian judo person could not go back to Iran because of death threats because he shook hands with an. And it's crazy that it opened the same week of this war with Iran. It's crazy, the coincidence. So that is a movie that people will love if you like a thriller. It's empowering for women. Great directors, a co between a male and female co-director. The acting's amazing. So I'd recommend everybody to go see Tatami if you'd like a great thriller that has to do with sports and woman empowerment.
Peter, your son produced that with the producers of Fauda too, right?
Correct. So we have a
Huge.
small production company called Seymour Cash Productions after my father, who passed, and he loved movies. His favorite movie was Gunga Din with Cary Grant. If people know that movie from my
Of
generation or
course.
their parents'
Yeah.
generation,
Or
and he had a
Bob
love for
Dylan's
movies.
song.
He had a love for movies, and my son, besides having a high tech fund, a deep impact tech fund, as you know him, he also loves producing movies, and we're very fortunate that we were able to participate with the co-producers who are brilliant, and they were very kind and very nice to allow us to participate.
Incredible family, Peter. So all of my guests come on the show and they end the same way. I lead with the beginning of a question, which incorporates the name of the show, Some Future Day, as you know. And then I have my guests finish the sentence. So, are you game?
Yeah, some future day.
No, I got to start the sentence.
Oh,
You
you
don't
got to
get to
start. You
start
got to
the
start
sentence.
it.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you
I'm
got.
going to lead you. You got to
Okay, got
finish
it.
my sentence. All right. So, in some future day, the pharmaceutical industry will radically change and help accelerate innovation and cures in cancer because.
Of the global collective collaboration uh, 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 with mutual scientists and industrialists and governments all aligned with each other.
So, we're going to tear down the walls and, as humans, come together as one entity in the name of science.
Mark, I had an opportunity to meet President Gorbachev at a charity event before he died.
Wow.
And it was I even have a picture with me and him. Actually, everybody was going over to him, asking him for giving him some geopolitical advice on perestroika, and I swear this is a true story. I went over to him, and with his translator there with the mustache, I said, "President Gorbachev, you'd like to hear a good joke?" And he he looked at me like, "What?" And he said, "Yes." And through the translator, so I told him a very funny joke, and he laughed. If Gorbachev could break down the Berlin Wall, which allowed us to be semi where we are today, which could be better, we could break down the scientific walls and have greater mutual collaboration with China. I have no doubt.
Dr. Peter Cash, thank you so much for joining me today on Some Future Day. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you, Mark, and have an amazing weekend.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Some Future Day. I know your time is super valuable, so I hope you learned how you can leverage emerging technology to improve your life. And exciting news, my new book, Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything, is now available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and other major booksellers across the globe. I am so proud to share that because of your support, the book topped the charts. It became #1 bestseller in cryptocurrency, #1 bestseller in artificial intelligence, and #1 bestseller in robotics. So, if you're curious and ready to learn how AI can enhance your career, your community, and your family, get yourself a copy today.